So, back up. So, I'm really not sure where to begin. There's a whole lot of interesting things about the games industry. It's kind of fun just to dive in and see what happens. I've been in the games industry a long time. I started 22 years ago, and I've worked at some of the good companies. Well, sort of good companies: Electronic Arts, Activision, Sony, a few of the little guys. But what I really wanted to do is just kind of involve you guys for a second. So I want to talk about the best thing about being in the game industry: swag. This is a T-shirt. I got this at a GDC several years ago. I've never opened it. I don't know what it is. It's an industry-only shirt, and I'd like one of you to have it. So let's make this a kind of an easy one. See who really knows their games. What was the name of the first popular home console built by Atari back in the 80s? Hands up first. Nope, the console itself. Does anybody know the name of the Atari? Give someone else a chance. The 2600. You should open that up, see what it is, because I'm really curious. So I have a question for you. You're probably a gamer. Excuse me, son, who won the shirt. You must look up here now. Are you a gamer? Okay, I have a question for you. Sit down, it's all right. I just have a question for you. Look, I have a question for you. You play a lot of games? Okay, it's a question I used to hear. I just want to ask it to you. What are those damn games ever going to do for you? You don't have to answer that. I heard that question a lot. I heard that a lot from my father when I was growing up. I used to go to arcades, and I know arcades don't exist really anymore, but I would take as many quarters as I could find, beg, borrow, or acquire, and I would drop them into slots of arcade games all day Saturday, and I would come home and I would miss dinner, and my father would look at me and say, "What are those goddamn video games ever going to do for you?" It's a valid question. It was a good question back then because he was concerned about my future. It's a good question now. You're seeing it in the news a lot, probably. Video games are all of a sudden in the news, and not necessarily in the best of ways for the games industry. We're hearing a lot about how they're a negative influence, how they can start violence. People are talking about that, and it's an important topic. We talk about some other negative influences. In 1950, they censored Elvis Presley's hips on television because the gyrations, which I will not do for you here, would influence children negatively and cause them to go out and do bad things. We had rock and roll in the 70s. Stanford posted an educational publication back in 1977 talking about how rock music could incite violence among young people. In the 90s, we had a game called Mortal Kombat. And yes, Mortal Kombat was in 1992. It was also referred to just last month as a specific reason why games are violent and shouldn't be allowed to be played. And those are valid points. Games are interactive, and violence, is serious. So they're going to spend an awful lot of money in the next few years, and they're going to study video games very, very hard. I'm going to give you my prediction today, and I'm glad they're taping this because somebody's going to come back to haunt me, but my prediction is when all these studies are done, they will say, yes, video games do promote violence in people that are prone to violent activities through external media influences. So at the same time as they shouldn't play video games, we need to keep them away from Quentin Tarantino movies and, playgrounds in some cases. I believe that there's going to be an awful lot spent and that we're going to continue what we're doing today, and we're going to self-regulate, and we're going to keep things going. So let's talk about the games industry. I know you didn't want to hear me get up here on my soapbox. So, video games industry. What do people do in the games industry? Well, they program, they do art, there's lawyers, there's business people like myself, there's managers, there's human resources, there's designers, that's the plum job. There's pretty much anything you can find in just about any business in the world, which is because video games is a serious business now. What was a small company when I started Electronic Arts, I was number 310 there, is now over 10,000 people. Selling 1 million units of a video game was impossible. We sold 100,000 units of something, we got a trophy. And now, Call of Duty sells 7 million units in the first 24 hours, and everybody goes, oh, that's it? It was better last year. So, let's talk about what you get in this industry, because I've been in it 22 years, and I think I can offer an interesting perspective. Let's talk a little bit about why you don't want to be in the video games industry. Number one is a real job. You do have to punch long hours and things. Number two is the one that nobody ever thinks of, is you don't always get to work on what you want to work on. You may go in saying, oh my gosh, I am going to build the next Call of Duty. I'm going to build the next great flight simulator. I'm going to build the next Portal. No, you're going to build the next Rainbow Bright Horse Simulator. Enjoy it for the next 2 years. Put that on your resume for Call of Duty. Let's see how it works. Actually, it does work. You can move up pretty easily through the ranks. You also will get handed things that you aren't expecting, like, okay, I'm working on this great car game, and you get a call, and they say, hey, we just signed a license with Pepsi, so we need Pepsi integrated directly into the product. Can you put it on like all the signs and maybe like have a fuel boost that's Pepsi Cola? No, I'm making a racing game. You don't put Pepsi in cars. In my case, I had a real good one, and I encourage you to Google this. I was on the EA sales team, and sales team's a pretty good gig. If you're not a programmer, as you go, you travel a lot, you get invited to all the parties, and every quarter they fly you in, they sell you on the games, and they bring you t-shirts and hats and bottle cap openers and occasionally a nice jacket or something, and they brought us in and said, yeah, there's a big game out there called Street Fighter 2. We go, oh yes, we know Street Fighter 2. Everybody plays Street Fighter 2. People are buying Super Nintendos to play Street Fighter 2. I said, yeah, we're doing a fighting game. And we went, oh yes, we're going to compete. We're going to be out there. We're going to have Shaq Fu. Now, Shaq Fu is exactly what you think it is. Shaq Fu is Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player, doing kung fu in a fantasy land to beat all the demons so he can get back and play in the big game. He looked like you look right now. And he thought, okay, how are we going to polish this turd? We'll get right out there and sell that. And we got right out there and sold that. And it took us a year to regain the trust of our stores. They didn't believe anything we said. It was hard selling Madden after that one. But people forgot, finally. And I don't put that on my resume ever. But you don't always get to do what you want. And you get thrown those interesting curveballs. There's another problem with this industry. It's volatile. I have been laid off 4 times. The first time was terrifying. This last one, which was last November, I kind of went, once again. And I got another job, and I keep moving on. But you will get laid off a lot. Just today, and I don't know if you guys see the gaming news, you're maybe familiar with a little company called Disney, and they have a big studio here in town called Junction Point. Junction Point made the Epic Mickey games. Junction Point is gone today. Every single person was put out on the street. They didn't keep anyone. Half of the Disney mobile team that was in town and played them was gone today as well. Just last week, Vigil was taken out here in Austin, and THQ filed for bankruptcy, and they've been around a long time. So it is volatile. Do I personally think there'll be a new game company in the next 2 months founded by the geniuses behind Junction Point and Vigil? Yeah, probably. And these people will get jobs. And there are opportunities for good jobs out there. So let's talk about the good stuff for a second. Why do you want to work in this industry? Well, it does keep your lights on. But you get to work with really incredible people. I mean, I work with the most talented, creative people. These people make magic, as far as I'm concerned. They sit at a computer and they type little things, and it looks like the Matrix flying across their screen. And next thing I know, some muscle guy's picking up a gun and running forward and blowing away tanks, and it looks real. That's amazing. That's truly magic. We also get new technology to play with all the time. And that changes the world. I mean, yeah, we get a PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360. Now we got the PS4 and the Durango, and and that's really neat. Those are huge evolutions. But we also got something called the iPhone. Oh my God, touch screen in your hand. You look at all the kind of games that came out. Angry Birds is one, but the creativity that's come out of all that, it's amazing. It opened up a whole new world. The market is exploding right now. There are people your age making games and making thousands of dollars right now because they figured out something really cool they can do with a touch screen. You get, when you think about it, nobody buys a new computer, just make Excel run faster. So we always get to push the limits. We always get to push ourselves further. We get to try out new technology, new programming techniques, new art techniques with 3D and rendering and smoke effects. When smoke effects came out, my God. When curved surfaces came out, my God. We couldn't believe you could make curves on a computer. But you always have something new and cool to do. So let me tell you a little bit about getting into this, being in this business. There are a lot of people trying to get in. It's hard to break in. It's very hard to break in. It's very easy. It's easier if you know somebody. So I can talk to people afterwards and get your contacts and join this organization or read these boards. And it's a good way to get going. But let's just talk about how you get in the door and what happens. You're all familiar with a company called Pixar, and Pixar, whenever they bring in a new animator, they used to do this. I'm not sure they still do this, but this was told me by somebody at Disney, and I believe them. They give a new animator something called the shit walk. Kid you not. Disney will not admit to this, by the way. And what that is they say, hey, new animator, we've just picked you to be in Pixar. Make that figure walk across the screen. Well, some of these people are like, I don't make characters walk across. I do environmental fire effects. I'm top of the field in explosion. Those people don't last very long in Pixar. Those people don't last very long in the game industry. If you just make your character, that's kind of boring. Anybody can do that. So what they do is they say, they're looking for the people who put a little of themselves into it. Something, anything. Make the orc run across the field. Well, I'm making an orc, but what if he's got some arrows in him and he's hurt and he's trying to get away maybe? Put yourself into it. The creativity thrives in this industry. People like me, I do business. I do contracts, I do deals, I do sales. And it's all about creativity. How can you do something that hasn't been done before because the industry is moving so damn fast? You have to. So be bold, be confident. Play some games critically every once in a while. Yes, we all like to escape, but every once in a while, play a game while you're really watching the game. And think about, not the crying you're going to do later on the message board, oh, this really sucks because the dragon did. No. See how they did things. Go, gosh, that was really cool where they brought you in like that. And that was really neat how I could just jump right into the game the first time. And the interface felt natural to me. And that really sucked when I was trying to pull out my dagger and I took my hat off instead because the keys didn't make sense. Think like a game creator for a minute. Try being a game creator. You can download free tools and make games. Unity's got a cheap version. GameSalad's got a cheap version. There's great stuff out there. And start to think about studying the important things. Math. Big on math in the games industry. Everybody needs to know math. Oh, I'm going to be an artist. Okay, better know math. Guess what? All of the art is 3D rendered and graphically designed to interface with the 3D environment. You better know math. Well, I'm going to be a designer. Okay? You have to talk to your programmers and your artists and your producers, and they're all doing it through math, so you at least have to have a working knowledge. History, psychology, politics, current events. Think about the things that you know intrinsically when you play a game and how you got there. Because when you make a game, you have to teach people that to walk that same path. You assume they've gotten up to a certain point. If you put something in nobody's ever read or nobody's ever thought about, and you put in your game, it's going to be a hard stop as soon as they get in. So think about all the things that make you love what you do, and all the things that got you there, and think, well, how am I going to get my eyes to think about this? So, if you love doing something, the chances are you can find it in the games industry. But here's the best part. Let's say you decide not to go in the games industry, but you can do these things. That's fine. There's a lot of other people that want to be in the games industry, and you can, some places, make more money in other fields, and that's great. But think like a game designer. Be creative. Think about what got you to these places and use that to build upon on everything you do. And wherever you end up, you're going to have those fast-moving, cutting-edge technology thought processes that game designers and game makers have, and take that to another industry, and you will be a superstar. I guarantee it. So, what do these goddamn games ever do for me? They bought my house. It's a real job. But it's turned into a real way of life, and I absolutely love it. I encourage you all to try it, or to think about it, or at least think like that industry does. That's my challenge today. Thank you.